prior to this time, I never lost any sleep over a religious fanatic living in a cave in the Hindu Kush, because he couldn't hurt me. But we've now learned he can.
General Hayden, you've talked about how social media can have both good and bad consequences, but that it's really changing the way authority is driven both for countries and for governments. Speak to that.
Sure. Look, in its best sense, it's almost the democratization of everything, because individuals now have access, have empowerment to do things they couldn't touch before, or do things they couldn't do before. You know, when it comes to banking or buying a home or a whole bunch of other wonderful things, that's just great. But the dark side of that is that it's pushed power that we used to associate with nation states, down to sub-state groups, gangs, and individuals, and now they can visit destruction on us, comparable to what nation states used to do. Look, prior to this time, I never lost any sleep over a religious fanatic living in a cave in the Hindu Kush, because he couldn't hurt me. But we've now learned he can.
You've also made the comment that our institutions rely on national security and infrastructure that was built on around 1947 or so. It's not ready for the cyber world that we live in today.
Well, cyber interconnected global world in which we live. That's right. Look, we were hardwired in 47 with the National Security Act of that year, created CIA, the National Security Council, the Secretary of Defense, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and America's Air Force. And in that act, we embodied all the lessons we learned fighting the greatest industrial age war in history. And those are the institutions now that answer the bell when the president says, hey, we need to have an NSC meeting to decide what to do about our security here in the 15th year of the 21st century. Genevieve, we literally don't even have the right people in the room in order to bring all the aspects of American power to bear on the problems we now face.
So, but what about in the world where people are demanding transparency? The public demands transparency, understandably, civil liberties. How does the intelligence community deal with that in terms of keeping us safe?
Only with great difficulty. Look, here's the dynamic. I come from a world, American espionage, ruled by law, not lawless, but demanding secrecy for its success. And now we have a popular political culture, and I should add a legitimate political culture, that demands transparency and public accountability from practically every aspect of national life. So how do I get the okay from the American people to go do what it is I'm doing on their behalf if they insist on knowing more about it than I frankly would be able to tell them? Otherwise, it's not worth doing in the first place if it's that public.
Well, and the public, you have a public that's divided on whether what Edward Snowden did was a good thing or was a bad thing. Right. I mean, is the intel community going to be able to get over the damage he's done, both just to what he exposed, but also the PR? The
trust level, right. So number one, operationally, it was very punishing. And it's going to take years and lots of money to recover, but we know how to do that. We've had losses before, we'll recover. But you hit upon the great point. It's a question of trust. Trust between ourselves and our allies, trust between our security organizations and American industry, and then finally, trust between the American government and the population that it serves. That's a heavy lift. All three of those are heavy lifts. Frankly, my old community is going to have to be more transparent than it has historically been comfortable being. Otherwise, they're not going to get the American people's approval to go do the things that the community feels need be done in order to keep America safe. Is that going to affect operational results? Yeah. It's going to shave points off of effectiveness. But Genevieve, my judgment is if my old community doesn't go do that, then it's not going to matter because they're not going to be allowed to go do those things anyway.